Act 1 of Episode Heresy is coming to a close, and with that, I wanted to go ahead and give my thoughts as we go into Act 2. I was very excited going into this episode as the last season in any expansion cycle is typically Bungie's best for the year. The first two episodes had some highlights, but really nothing game changing, just more typical Destiny content. I love this game and have consistently played it for the last 10 years, but have found myself noticing that things have been getting stale in the cycle of content we are receiving. I've gotten lots of my enjoyment out of the game lately in build crafting and seeing how all sorts of variations of weapon subclasses and how they hold up in different activities and overall change the feel of the game. This was something I started to get into during Into the Light, and with the release of Prismatic in the final shape, it really opened up the floodgates of possibilities. Most days I'll find myself at work thinking or researching a new build that I could use and testing it out once I get home from a long day to unwind. This is how I've managed to keep myself entertained with Destiny during the dry periods of the game, trying to spice up each and every run of an activity. Seeing how the community has reacted to the last few episodes and all the negativity, it was hard to see what was happening to the game that I love to play every day. It felt like recommended videos on YouTube were always just another Destiny is dying video, and so much negativity was polluting the overall player base. I personally had really high hopes and believed in Bungie that they would deliver for Episode Heresy and not let the player base down. I envision Heresy as Bungie making a third quarter comeback for the cycle of episodes, all being pretty disappointing so far. No spoilers here, but I will say the story started off crazy, and really just started off with a bang, ignoring any filler or fluff. I really was not expecting the amount of high quality cutscenes and story that we were receiving in episodic content. They blew it out of the park and exceeded my expectations. In the past, the story has been something I have not really invested in, but this episode has been very interesting so far. It tells a story in-game for anyone to see, understand, and experience. There has been a noticeable shift in quality of the game overall, whether it's the weapons, story, activities, and overall quality of life updates. I'm glad to see the story unfold week by week again, rather than just doing the same thing in one play session on the first Tuesday of an episode, and just sitting there the rest of the week thinking, well, what about now? This is how Revenant was. I believe this is the direction they should keep going in forward. I was so excited the way they brought back the Dreadnought with the Nether activity, basically being a hybrid of the Coil, Patrol, and Overthrow from the Pale Heart. There was enough Destiny 1 nostalgia mixed with the new areas and designs to make things interesting. Not to forget the new designs and abilities the Taken enemies have now, such as the Acolytes spawning Taken War Beasts on death, Minotaurs freezing you with stasis clouds, or those annoying Taken Thrall dropping those exploding blights. This is something Bungie can do in the future to keep making typical enemy types more interesting, giving them different abilities, traits, looks, all that kind of stuff. They kept it very faithful to the original, as they have with most things they've previously brought back in the game. I was very skeptical when they first announced the return of the Dreadnought in fear that it could turn into another Tomb of Elders letdown for me. I was excited to see the Prison of Elders return, but not in the way that it did end up turning out. I always liked the exploration of the Dreadnought and wanted it to still be a major focus on which Bungie delivered on. I love the different difficulties, loot structure, and how you can queue in solo or with a team. It's nice to hop into an activity at your own pace and be able to drop out whenever you desire versus something like Onslaught that will require lots of time and effort to invest for a full run. With Onslaught, you could have the issue of people dropping out once time starts to add up, making it more difficult for others to finish what they have invested all this time in. I keep having Onslaught runs that can run from 50 minutes to an hour and a half, and it just makes it very difficult to get the things that you want in a reasonable amount of time as somebody that doesn't play this game for hours and hours every single day. This is something that I hope they expand upon in Frontiers and really see how good the structure is and how it works for anybody's playstyle and time. The loot structure has been very important, and I think this episode it's been great so far. I think they've hit the sweet spot with weapon drops, with still not including crafting. The Nether showers you with loot, and after every encounter, getting that perfect god roll seems to be pretty obtainable. But for the hardcore players, Bungie offers both shiny and adept weapon versions with higher difficulties. If you're lucky enough, there's a chance of even an adept shiny drop with double perks. I'm currently chasing the adept shiny adamantite and have invested several hours into hunting for the perfect shiny adept drop. This adds a meaning to the loot chase for me and the replayability of the Nether. Just like with shiny onslaught weapons, it gives you that nice, oh my gosh, feeling of getting a perfect RNG drop for a good reason for replaying the activity. All of the weapons are unique, with some highlights being adamantite, a new strand support auto rifle with some neat perks and killer unique design, and a community favorite so far with the Psycho Pump, the first area denial grenade launcher, even coming with the new perk Rolling Storm. And pairing that with a Storm's Keep Titan can basically give you the fastest bolt charge stacks in the game. Both the Lodestar and Barrow Dyad are the new exotics and are unique and interesting. We have to really wait until we get the upgrades and catalysts in later acts to really unlock the full force to see how they're really going to stack up. Overall, of all the seasonal episodic loot chases recently, this one's been my favorite. I love the loot chase and the design that appeals to both the casual and hardcore players. This season, some people were a little disappointed that we did not receive any exotic armor pieces, but we did rather receive 3 new aspects, one for each class. I much prefer this over the exotics because this adds way more build diversity, as with exotics, a lot of the times you just put one exotic on and that's the build. Warlocks received Ionic Sentry, a gunpowder gamble style ability, allowing them to throw out an arc turret separate from your grenade charge that blinds enemies and stacks bolt charge which ETH hit. This one personally to me has been my favorite because it adds a good way of Warlocks to lock down areas, similar to Bleak Watchers on Stasis, which have noticeably been one of my favorites in the game. Titans have become Thunder Gods with Storm's Keep, the new arc aspect allowing them to gain stacks of bolt charge while being behind their barricade. Instead of bolt charge only being discharged from ability damage, this allows it to also be discharged from any weapon damage. To put it in simple terms, it allows you to basically make any gun a baby Thunderlord. This aspect really changes the game for Titans, giving them more of a supportive ability for team play, allowing everybody to call down lightning strikes in a fire team that has become a staple of the meta already in almost every piece of endgame content. Arc Titan really lives up to the power fantasy and the idea of how I think Bungie envisioned them. Lastly, Hunters now live out their bounty hunter fantasy with the new On the Prowl aspect for Void. On the Prowl will make a target that once defeated drop a cloud of smoke for you and your allies that will turn you invisible and grant increased ability regen for a short time. This aspect is cool as it creates a cool loop of hunting down targets one to another and chaining invisibility, but hasn't really made much of a mark in PvE for the most part, as hunters, especially prismatic ones, can already obtain invisibility very easily. As for On the Prowl in PvP, well, Bungie was quick to make some changes after the first few weeks of trials. Lots of abilities and exotics also got good quality of life changes, such as handheld Supernova, now being pretty viable again, especially paired with Verities. Telesto causing a storm of void projectiles to rain over the battlefield. And since its debut in Curse of Osiris, Khepri's Horn finally becomes a decent option for Titans. I would bring up the topic of Lord of Wolves and how it has become the Templar's worst nightmare, but I fully anticipate Bungie making some adjustments to the damage of Release the Wolves in the future. But for now, it's fun to use something as overpowered as it is. Overall, I am loving Episode Heresy and hope that Bungie is seeing this success and pushes to make more good quality of life changes going into the next 2 acts and Frontiers and even beyond. The next 2 acts are seeming to be pretty good so far, with the Court of Blades, Sunless Cell Strike returning, and even a 9-theme Pantheon-style dungeon event that hopefully will give every player a chance to experience some of Bungie's greatest pieces of content. So far, I am very happy with how things are moving and am very optimistic for the future. I plan to go more in depth on my thoughts of Act 2 once it comes out and I get to experience what it has to offer. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope you're enjoying your time in the game as much as I am. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on Heresy down in the comment section. I hope you have a great day, spread some positivity, and I will see you in the next one.